The evaluation of the efficiency of our ports is part of this need. The efforts of the government to put in place appropriate policies and structures for gathering and validating data to ensure its credibility is part of our effort to building an efficient port. A more efficient seaport translates into competitiveness for shippers, that is importers and exporters, and all stakeholders who make their living and contribute to building this country through the ports. The efficiency of the port is reckoned through various port productivity indicators. I have no doubt that you will delve into these indicators during this conference. These include access to berths, turnaround time for vessels calling at the port, the dwell time for containers, processing and clearing times for imports and exports, even including delivery to the points where they are needed. How do we fare on these indicators? Ghana's ports have seen some improvements over the years. We have created new berths, built new terminals, upgraded equipment, and implemented several reforms to raise the efficiency of the ports, to facilitate trade and improve revenue mobilization. In spite of all these efforts, most users at our ports will agree that we are far from achieving the level of port efficiency that we all wish to see to make Tema or Takoradi the ports of choice in the sub-region. There is still queuing for berth space. Ship turnaround time is far higher than the average for most regions around the world. In a 2013 study conducted by renowned researchers Brian Slack and Claude Comtois on ships' time in port, an international comparison. This study shows that the average time in port for vessels in Europe is about 25 hours. For vessels in East and North Asia, it's about 17 hours. South Africa is 64 hours, and I'm told that the port of Tema did about 103 hours in 2016. Clearly, we have some long way to go. We have a long way to go. Our government would work with the Ghana Ports and Harbors Authority and the stakeholders towards the realization of the objectives of the Tema and Takoradi port expansion projects, as this is in consonance with our rapid industrialization agenda. On the cargo clearance front, improvements have been very slow. Cargo dwell time is still very high compared to ports in South Africa, let alone talk about Asia or even Europe. We still have delays in the clearance of goods and the attendant cost of such demurrage and rent. In 2016, shippers or importers paid an estimated amount of some $100 million in demurrage charges. I am told that the last time a similar estimate was conducted in 2013, the demurrage amount was $75 million. Whilst government likes revenue, this is not the kind of revenue we want to build this country. It is a punitive cost, an inefficiency cost. It is an avoidable cost, and it only goes to demonstrate that shippers are not releasing containers to shipping lines in good time. There are other inefficiency and nuisance costs, including those used in facilitating clearance through the regulatory agencies and the GRA customs itself. These contribute greatly to the high cost of goods and services in the country and renders our exports uncompetitive, and most importantly, lead to high dissatisfaction among clients. These inefficiencies and man-made bottlenecks And there are many man-made bottlenecks when you get to the ports. There's not as much automation as we would like to see. There's a plethora of agencies all around the place, and you are being stopped by people sometimes who describe themselves. I don't know if they are actually national security, but national security has to look. They are all over the place, checking everything. These inefficiencies and man-made bottlenecks have direct bearing on the tax revenues collected at the ports. The inefficiencies encourage collusion among some importers, clearing agents, and customs officers to exploit the system to the detriment of tax revenue. An attempt by the government to deal with the issue of inefficiencies in the clearance process was the introduction of the Destination Inspection Scheme and the single window systems. Despite these innovations, there are still bottlenecks, and there is a sense that the problems of cargo clearance at the ports remain major concerns. The issue of an ineffective customs valuation system still needs to be addressed. The coordination of port activities, systems operations, and linkages are all major concerns. We still have a situation where there are systems in the port that are not integrated or talking to one another. Inefficiencies breed corruption and waste. It is in this vein that this conference is being organized to discuss and outline real and practical. We want real and practical ways of addressing the port efficiency issues to the benefit of businesses and for growing the economy as a whole and for job creation. We have said that we want to make Ghana the most business-friendly economy in Africa. The port efficiency is going to be part of that process of making Ghana the most business-friendly. What we are trying to do has been done in other countries. And so we are not reinventing the wheel, and we should not try to reinvent the wheel. There are very real and practical steps that we can take and we should take to make our ports very efficient, to allow business activity to flourish. The government of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, and the president is leading on this, is not hiding the pride of place that the private sector and the business in general occupies in our development agenda. We need to catalyze and facilitate the private sector to create jobs, to grow a prosperous economy. It is the revenue from growth that helps build a better economy, and not the revenue from inefficient and punitive port charges. In fulfillment of our promise to be more business-friendly and support the private sector for growth, government has removed and, where appropriate, reduced some taxes payable at the ports. It is, however, worth noting that these inefficiencies persist. The benefits expected from the reduction of these taxes will not be realized as long as these inefficiencies persist. So various policy initiatives of this government are geared towards an export-led growth. To this end, we have put in place measures such as the planting for food and jobs, mass cocoa spraying, reduction of the cost of inputs to cocoa farmers, and so on. The One District, One Factory initiative aims to decentralize our industrial growth and to boost exports. An efficient port will undoubtedly play a very important role in this pursuit. Together, we need to do whatever it takes to ensure that port efficiency is not a lip service, that we enhance revenue mobilization and stimulate business growth. It is only by so doing that we will be able to create jobs so much needed by our teeming youth. Honorable Ministers, ladies and gentlemen, as you deliberate fervently on these matters, I will encourage you to focus on the issues of commercial invoices for imports and how to develop a system that will address that challenge once and for all. Let us also be mindful that just throwing money and equipment at challenges is not always the best approach to problem solving. We need an understanding of the processes, how to get the systems to work together, and just as important, how we manage the human factors that make things happen or not happen. We need to be sure of the actual problems we are addressing with the recommendations we make. Let us also be wary of overprotecting our turfs. We need a collective effort to deal with these serious issues that confront us as a nation. I am confident that this conference will come out with a blueprint spelling out the actions and modalities necessary for ensuring that our ports will become efficient and competitive. Nana Akufo-Addo wants nothing less than this. We are going to have to come out with very practical steps and measures to deal with this efficiency matter. We are not going to kick the ball and say, let's have another conference and let's have another workshop. When we leave here, we are going to take some decisions. And we are going to take the decisions based on the recommendations that we have here. And this is why you have the Honorable Minister of Transport leading us here, because this is under his sector ministry, and you have the Trade Minister, world-class trade expert, who is here and going to go through this session. The Deputy Trade Minister, who used to be the immediate past president of the Freight Forwarders Association of Ghana, he's also here. We have the former Minister of State for Finance and now Minister for Monitoring and Evaluation, Dr. Akutose, is also here to make sure we get things done. We have the Minister for Business Development, Mohamed Awal, is also here. So the government is really here, and we are going to take some major decisions. When we all leave here, we will sit down and say, how do we really solve this problem? How do we implement these recommendations? We don't want this to be a talk shop. We want to give everybody an opportunity to air their views. Since we've come to office, one of the things that I have noticed, when everybody comes to ask me, can I have a job? I say, well, what do you want to work? Number one answer, ports. Without fail, I want to go to the ports. I'm wondering what is in the ports. What really is there? Am I missing something? You know, everybody wants to work in the ports. And then even the people working in customs, they come to me and say, I want a transfer. Where do you want to go? I want to go to the port. So there must be something that is happening there. And if people are making additional revenues, it means government is not getting those revenues. That is just the whole point. And so we are going to have to look at these systems, these human interfaces. How do we really get this into automation going, and so on. And so the way this conference has been organized, with looking at our situational analysis initially, looking at learning from others, what others are doing, reducing the human interface, blocking the revenue leakages. These are really all major topics that the government is very, very interested in, and hopefully we will come out with an agenda of action and recommendations that we will present to the President, Nana Akufo-Addo, and some decisions can be taken. We are going to have an efficient port in Ghana. There is no negotiation on that. Thank you very, very much. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Thank you. I'd like to acknowledge the presence of Honorable Daniel Titus Glover, Deputy Minister for Transport, Mr. Paul Ansan, DG for GPHA, Mr. Kofi Nti, Commissioner General for Ghana Revenue Authority, Mr. Krensel, Commissioner for Customs, Mrs. Cynthia Saribediakun, Chief Director, Office of the Vice President, Mr. Peter McMahonu, Chairman of GPHA, Mr. Robert Kutin, Chairman for the Ghana Maritime Authority, Mr. Ong Seong Leong of PSA International Singapore, Mr. Ong Zin Ting, PSA International Singapore, Mr. Adolf Shaban, Dubai Customs, Mr. Faisal Lutfi, Dubai Customs, Mr. Rottershut, Port of Antwerp International, Dr. Mbia, Ghana Shippers Authority.